Same thing, I use the ball joint separator, put it on here, and pop the steering knuckle off of the old one, put it onto my new tubular Techno Toy tuning setup here, and just gonna match up all the holes. So I'm roughly in the right spot. Ball joint there, swing it out here. So that's the second hole for the sway bar, and that. And I pulled up my micrometer to measure the bushing size. So this is an energy suspension replacement. It's 62 mils. The factory Techno Toy is 50 mils, and they include these washers, which are 2.6 mils. So 5 of those equals 12.4 mils, which should be about right. This was 62, I think. Yep, that's a little over 62. That's about 50.1. So with 5, 62.89. It's a little more, but hopefully it'll squeeze in. So center line looks to be about 26 mils to the short side, and roughly 38 mils to the long side. So this looks like it's about 24 mils to each side. So basically all the washers go on the back side if you're keeping this similar to stock. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and install this. So decided that that 5 doesn't fit. I'm gonna put in 4, and even if it pulls the arm in a little bit, it's on a spherical rod end which can't be compressed, so it's not going to bind in any way. So I'm just going to stick 4 of them through, and give them a little encouragement. Like so. So comes through the other side. That is a lot of play. I'm not happy with that. good. These don't go on either. Alrighty. Yeah, that's just not gonna work out for me. Let's see if I can't fit another one of these in there. Alright, there we go. Now get the nut on the other end. Take the control arm off. And it's not going to make a sound. Is exactly what we want. New problem is that this sway bar end link does not want to give us enough thread to run the cap. Hopefully that doesn't strip. And then we just have to kind of tighten everything up. I think that needs a new boot. And then add the new tension arm, and we're on our way. So this tie rod end, the boot was torn in a circle. It actually happened on the other side. The other side split down the center. So what I did is, these are non-replaceable boots. This is a cheap tie rod end from Black Dragon, I think. So they don't have replaceable boots on them. But what you can order are these replacement boots from Energy Suspension. So you just get one of those, plop it on top, and put the arm on, and compress it, and it forms a pretty much watertight seal, as good as the old boot was, and better than a torn boot. So you can do that, and you have your replacement tie rod boot, because the tie rod end is still good, but it's just the boot that's torn. So do that. That's a 17. Let's see. attach it on there.
There we go, replacement tie rod boots. So steering is in play. And we just need our tension arm and our strut. So this is the Technotoy tuning arm tension arm. And it seems like the way you're supposed to install this is to actually take the bolt out, separate that out, and put a socket over there, come in from the back, tighten everything down, and then install the rod back in. And so, can't see it from that side. Swap sides here. So just insert that into place and come in from the back side. Oops. Getting awkward with the wheel in the way and the brake caliper, I guess. That into place. Put the lock washer on. And then start threading the nut. And then once that's on, we put the rod in. That connects back to the control arm. And we have our functional lower control arm set up. Then all we do is add the strut. That gives us our dampening, and we are hopefully golden. I just wanted to go over the Technotoy Tuning GTX-2 kit, the lower control arm and the tension arm. It didn't come with any instructions, so it's kind of a figure it out as you go, but I just wanted to go over what I found. So I moved my, let's see if you can see that. So I moved one of the spacers to the top, which forces the control arm down, which does the same thing as a roll center or bump steer adjuster. And then the bolt supplied for the sway bar, the Allen head is actually on this side and the Allen head is on top here. But if you put the Allen head here and then you put your tension arm link here, you can't adjust it. So I flipped mine to the other side over there. Sorry, can I get back there? So I put my Allen head here and I put the nut on this side. And same thing for this one. Once the strut is installed, it's just going to get difficult to get the right angle. So I put the Allen head on the bottom and then I can just leave a wrench on top here. A nice thing is that the sway bar end link adjusts its height. So you can adjust it and then eyeball the right length so you don't have to compress this prior to getting the nut on, which you used to have to do to a certain extent. Over here at the tension rod mount, so I put this red bracket in and I lined it up parallel with the chassis, but found that you can't get the bolt in because it hits over here. So I had to clock it so I could slide the bolt through, and then I tightened that down. This side I found was 20.5 threads, and then over here, this side I found was 23.5 threads. So I just rotated them both out 10 threads each, and that seemed to be able to hit the second link. You can see how tight it is already right there. It's very close, but once the suspension arm comes up, I think there'll be a little bit more room. If you line it up to the factory, it starts at this first hole, and this one starts at the second hole. But if you put it here, I feel like this nut is just going to rub against the side of this bracket the entire time. So I moved it back one. And to hit that one, you'd have to thread this arm out really, really far, and I don't think that's a good idea. I also did I also did more math on the spacer. So it was 50 across, so it's about 25 to one side. So if ideally you'd put a 1 mil spacer in the front and then 1 mil in the back and then do the 4 washers, but they don't include that. So I think this is going to be the best way. It moves it forward a millimeter, which is a little incrementally tiny amount of caster, so it's not the worst thing. But that's about it. This sway bar end link also adjusts out so that you can adjust the height so you don't have to pre-compress this to get the nut on. But overall, that's kind of what I found with this kit. I wish it came with instructions, but given how old these cars are and how much variation, I can see why they didn't do it. It'd be a lot of extra writing, but hopefully that helps. Alright, so just tightening everything. The what is it? It's a 1/2 inch Allen key in the bottom and a 15/16 up top. See if I can get chain action on both of them. Oops. Don't want to do that. And all of these are nylocks, so you don't have to get the most torque on them, and they'll still stay pretty well. So there's that. And yep, they actually went metric for the sway bar end links and such, so that makes life a little bit easier. You can see how you couldn't get an Allen key onto this side if you left it there. Which they might do this just for packaging, I'm not sure, but make sure to flip it if it's on the wrong side on your kit. And sway bar end links you're not really supposed to torque until the weight is on the car, so we'll leave that one alone for now. I've tightened all of the tension arm stuff. Tightened that down. That one's still finger tight. That's torqued. This I don't actually know the specs on, but I can do that momentarily. So onto the strut. So this is the BC Coilover kit. You basically take a stock strut housing and you cut it off at whatever length they say. I have the extreme low kit, so it was at 45 millimeters. I cut it down there, put the adapter on, and then welded it across. It has to be a really strong weld, so if you're not confident in your skill, definitely find a welder. For the fronts, there's a little hump that you have to shape to make sure that it's seated all the way down. I'm not sure if the camera's going to capture it, but it's right there. It's going to end up looking like a parabola. You kind of have to do more than just a semicircle. You have to go all the way across. But you can get a good bead on it. Any decent welder should be able to get a good bead on it. But yeah, once you get that done, then you have your adapters done. A friend shipped me a set, so I didn't have to cut down my stock ones, and it makes it good for a downtime. And that's about it. So when I pulled it out, I made sure I made an indicator for which side. I put 2 for the passenger side and 1 for the driver's side, so I know that this one goes on the right. I got these from Fernando at JPN Garage, and I had him send me 5K fronts and 5K rears because I have a 3-liter turbo engine with intercooler piping and oil relocators, and there's just more weight up front for me, so I just wanted a little more spring rate. You don't want to go much above 5K. People have found that above 5K the spring is too stiff, and the body's too loose, so that the body will actually flex before the spring compresses. So you have to be really careful about going much more than 5K in the front. 5K translates to about 300 pounds per square inch. Not square inch, pounds per inch. And 5K is 5 kilograms per millimeter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put anti-seize on the threads to keep it from rusting and make future adjustments easier. I'm not going to mess with the preloaded part because I don't think I'll ever touch that. So I'm just going to coat this with anti-seize, put it threaded into the housing, and I'm going to match it up to about that height of the factory spring over there. You can do math to actually find out your ride height approximately. These cars are about 50-50 weight distribution, so it's about 1,100 pounds front, 1,100 pounds back. If you have a 240, it'll be more for a 280. And then once you know your spring rate, compression rate, so this is about 300 pounds per inch. So if you say in the front there's about 1,100 pounds and each corner is seeing about 550, it'll compress about 2 inches. So you can factor that into your overall ride height. I'm just going to match it up to my old ones because my old ones were about 185 pounds per inch in the front. And if I can get the height about the same, it'll actually lift the car up, which will make it easier to finish my swap, and then I can lower it when I'm ready. So that is my plan. So just going to get some anti-seize. This is the copper brake stuff, which I'm not sure there's all that much difference, but just going to be, oh shoot, pretty liberal about application here. And you can see that it's doing a fairly good job of getting everywhere. So that's it. Do that, and then we'll thread it into the housing. So this is why, or this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this style of coilover. You can see where the lower control arm is drooping, and you can see where the coilover is. It's like a good, I don't know, 3-4 inches. So it just kind of holds the wheel up. So there's no droop when you have this style of coilover, which is nice for when you want to jack up the car. It's only a couple strokes to get the wheels off the ground. So, yep. Problem is that because it's so far, it's not going to bolt up. So I've got a little bottle jack. I'm going to use it to raise it up and then meet up the surface and then hopefully get the bolts in, and we'll keep going. And just a small thing before we go away. There's an O-ring here that seals against the bottom, and if you don't have that, it'll start corroding this nut. So not the end of the world, but it's nice to check if you have it or not. I think the sway bar coming up is making the other side of the suspension pop. So
In retrospect, I probably should have unbolted the other side first. And you just have to make sure that you're not lifting it off the jack when you're using more than one jack to do something. Oh, great. Yep, I'm lifting it off the jack. So I'm going to back off a little bit. Not that much. Hopefully try to get these Well, this is going to be difficult. I'm going to undo one side and then 17. Hopefully give this a little more freedom of movement. And then I can just get the other bolt in when I get the chance. Feels like something. There we go. The key here is to do the steering arm last. Rotate this out and stuff that up there. The castle nut back on. And we're good. I'll relieve the bottle jack. There we go. One coilover on the suspension here. So now it's the hub's turn to go on there. And then we get our bearing and we line up our keyway. And that goes in. And we get our retaining nut. Put that on. It's a bit rough. Just make sure there's no grit in there. There we go. Better. I'm gonna have to come revisit this because I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think what you do is you get a fish scale and then you want to pull until it reads about 4 pounds. So keep on tightening until it reads 4 pounds before rotating. So it's about 1 right now. Still about 1. That's about 2.5. Oh, it's about 5, so too much. It's about 1.5. It's about 4. So I think that is correct. I'm going to have to come back and read. On one of them, I think you tighten a certain amount and then you back off 90 degrees. I can't remember. So for now, I'm just going to call that good. Put the cap back on. And then I'll come back and look at exactly the torque specs since I haven't torqued anything yet. But that is that. Pretty much all back together. I just got to get the caliper on and the lower bolts tightened. And that's it. Alright, did some work, just wanted to get it done, so wanted to go over it. So the caliper bolts at the back, they're 17s once again. Torque to 60 pounds, I think is from 50 to 70. I always just go halfway, so 60 pounds. Same for the ones on the bottom of the strut, connecting the strut to the knuckle. They were both 50 to 70, so I did 60. The 17 on the tie rod end, that one's 35 to 45, so I think I did 40 on that one. I had to take the rotor back off to put on the 4 dust shield bolts, so I did that and then put it all back together. Torqued that down, torqued this down, torqued the front down. The brake caliper bracket back here, they provided it at a 90-degree angle, which on this car does not work, so I'm guessing they just included it, but I bent that back forward and I bent my brake line to meet up to it, so that was done that way. That's pretty much it on this side. I just need to get another cotter pin for the castle nut on this side, and that should be good to go.